So Loki season 2 premiered last night, and I gotta say, I was actually impressed. Now, I definitely will say, in the beginning of the episode, I went into it a little bit worried. The first season, the big draw to it was that it was a kind of a mystery, right? Just like with WandaVision, we really didn't know what was kind of going on. We didn't know where it was going. And by the time we got to the end of it, the climax with Jonathan Majors, that being a non-typical climax for a Marvel movie, not being some big CGI action piece, and it just being pretty much a dialogue for 30 or 40 minutes, was phenomenal. Coming into this one, I was kind of a little, like I said, worried because the mystery has kind of been dived into a lot more since the first season. We know about Kang. We know about the multiverse. We know about the Kang War, multiverse war. So I was kind of like, all right, so it's that kind of part is done. By the time I got to the end of the episode, though, I literally felt just like how I did watching the first season. I had that sense of hopelessness and Lovecraft kind of like scale of a story where, we are very small in this giant cosmic machine that we, can barely affect. So I was very, very pleasantly surprised. We pretty much pick right back up where Loki season 1 ended, and Loki is trying to explain exactly what is going on, but instead of him going into another, I guess, universe like he thought he might have been, he's actually jumping through time within the TVA, which should be impossible, from the past, present, and the future. To see Loki scared, I was talking to someone about this earlier. To me, that's precedent for something being, really out of whack. Because if Loki himself is scared of something or someone, that's pause for concern. With him eventually getting back in time enough to kind of be able to talk to Mobius and kind of get the plot going, it was interesting to see them kind of inject the humor into it. Not that that's, out of line for, Marvel in general or the Loki series. But I don't know, it did kind of throw the pacing off a bit for me. I thought it was funny, but I was just kind of like, do we really have time for this right now? So, I mean, it was okay in that aspect. The comedy's cool, but I did think they laid it on a little too thick at certain parts. My man Ki Kwan definitely killed and stole the show also. He was amazing throughout the whole episode. I think it's super funny that after Everything Ever All at Once, Disney snatched him up and Michelle Yeoh up pretty much for like multiple projects. So coincidence? I don't think so. But very cool to see him in another multiverse story. That's always very fun. And in general, I just love seeing him on screen anyway. I'm a big 80s fan, so Goonies and Indiana Jones and, pretty much everything else in between. I love Ki Kwan, and Goonies never say die. The TVA, I guess, temporal suits were really cool. Obviously very clunky, like an old school spacesuit, so I thought that was cool. I was super curious how they were going to do this like temporal radiation, which is a concept that I didn't even think of, and that fucking blew my mind. Like, obviously cosmic radiation is a thing, but temporal radiation? Shit. So I was very curious to see how they were going to do the aging. And the way they pulled it off, I gotta say, I was definitely very impressed. Visually, it was very captivating. Like, you know what I mean? Like I said, I was curious to see it, so when it started happening, I was like, oh wow, like the whole thing is just disintegrating and deteriorating. Like, that's dope. Like, that was a very, very cool concept. Very well executed. And of course, for the post-credit scene, we get Sylvie showing up in 1982, Oklahoma somewhere. And obviously, after everything she just did, finally completing her lifelong mission of killing He Who Remains, she kind of, I guess, stumbles into the McDonald's we've seen her in the promos in, and she basically just kind of wants to take a slice of life, kind of deal, which I get that. She's been on the run and, on this mission literally for a lifetime. So, yeah, her wanting to just kind of take a break and step away from it all and just have a normal life, definitely understandable. But ultimately, I did enjoy it. Like I said, I came into it kind of worried, and by the time I got to the end, I definitely still had that feeling of like, wow, like, man, I can't wait to see what's going to happen next, because like this episode was intense. Like, you know what I mean? Like with him getting on the time loop thing, or like the little, tether, like that was tense. Like, you know what I mean? Because the time ran out, the phone was ringing, like, you know what I mean? Like the way it was shot and the cinematography of it all was very well written. Yeah, I was impressed. Like I said, was not expecting to be, but I was very much impressed with the second season so far. Can't wait to see what the rest of it has coming.